The Spring framework is the most used framework in all of Java land. It is highly sought after from employers, and it's something that's great to know as a developer. Now, the thing to know is that Spring, you're going to go to their website and look at their projects page, and you're going to see that they do an incredible amount of stuff. In fact, they can play a part in just about any role in your application, from security to web apps to Android to mobile. They they have a lot of stuff and they do a lot of cool stuff. But really, at the very beginning, Spring started out doing one very simple thing. And they provided dependency injection. Now, we talked about dependency injection previously in the fact that it allows us to abstract away some of our concrete singletons. As well as that, it makes our code more testable. And we also saw in a previous section is that we're able to add these Spring dependencies to our pom.xml, and it'll download all the Spring libraries for us. In fact, if we open up the external libraries tab, little drop down, we can see that it downloaded about 5 or 6 jars that we need to use. So to get started with Spring, we're going to take a look at just this really simple Spring application context. So you'll note that previously, we had to create our own arsenal, and we had to create our own game. And you have to make sure you do those in the right order. Spring is something that takes care of all of that for us. In fact, you'll notice that, all right, I'm going to get rid of this. Okay, it's gone. So instead of having to say game equals new game, and then up here I have to say arsenal. Well, you get the point. I have to create the arsenal before I create the game. Now, instead of doing that, I can put in these crazy looking lines, but they're really not that bad. Let's take it from the beginning. So this application context, these are just all the beans that we want to create. And it's going to point to this file. It's going to point to an XML file. And this XML file has to live within the class path. And so typically what we do in applications is we have a folder that mirrors our original folder. So inside of source, inside of main, we've got Java, but we also added a resources. Let's add that application.xml. Application.xml is something I created earlier. Let's add it to resources. So now I can find that file, and let's take a look at what this does. It's XML, and we just create objects. Instead of manually creating them in Java, we're able to create them in XML. So here, we're creating a game. And via the constructor, we're injecting a variable named arsenal, and we're injecting this ref. Well, what does this ref refer to? Okay, it refers to another object. And this must be an arsenal. And look, it's got 2 constructor args, bows and swords. Now these constructor args, these could also be a property, and they could be injected via a setter. There's 2 ways to do it. They're both equally as good. Injecting them through a constructor argument or through a setter. And if we take a look at the constructor argument on arsenal, it should become very apparent that, yeah, we just have a simple constructor that we're able to insert into. And so it makes it real easy for me to follow the open-close principle, because I'm now able to create different beans. And in Java, beans is just a term for a Java object. And I'm able to create different beans, and now I'm just able to inject them, swap them out without having to change any code at all. Or perhaps I want to make a second game, and this one has an empty arsenal. But regardless of that, this is simply creating Java objects. And then in our application, we're going to retrieve those Java objects. And the way we do that, there's two ways. I'm going to show you the simple old school way now. I'll show you the new way later. But we just say get bean and we give it the name. So it's going to go out and get a bean, a Java object from our application.xml called game1. Ah, it must be this one right here. And then we're able to call start on it. And as you can see down here when we ran it, it runs just like our normal application. Spring takes care of creating all the beans. Spring takes care of creating all the beans in the correct order. So we don't have to have these beans listed sequentially. We could put them in any order that we want, and Spring will figure out how to make sure everything happens.